Good artists borrow, but great artists steal. Let's steal from Led Zeppelin's Jimmy Page. All right, let's break down this transition section from Over the Hills and Far Away. Up until this point, the song has been living somewhere in either G major or G Lydian, but here the chords are going to cadence down to E, which will temporarily become our tonal center and pivot chord as we move towards the first main guitar solo of the track in F-sharp blues. Now we're going to start on a G chord and we're going to hop down fourths to D, A, and finally E. Here's what that chord movement is going to feel like on its own. Now you can break down Jimmy's lead part from the sole perspective of a scale, considering that he's playing notes that mostly support the G major scale. But that's not always the case, and so I bet that's not what was going through his head when he wrote and tracked this part. He begins with two parallel phrases with double stop bends placed a fourth apart. I mentioned that space of a fourth because I want to point out how the melodic structure follows the same structure as the chords we just played. In fact, when you compare the notes in the lead part with the notes that belong in the chords, they match up. Specifically, we're bending into the third of the chord and then catching the fifth up above. For the G chord, that's B and D. And for the D chord, that's F sharp and A. You can kind of visualize these chord shapes as root position triads up here on the neck. For his final lick, Jimmy bridges the gap between our old key and the new by drawing a common line through the D, A, and E chords using the G major pentatonic scale, and landing again with a piece of the E chord to complete the phrase. You can visualize this E chord as a first inversion E-shaped triad here at the 12th fret, or as a root position A-shaped triad here a little lower. So here's what that lead line is going to sound like on its own. Listen to how you can hear the chord movement simply because of the chord implications in the melody. All right, let's put it all together and hear how, because the harmony and melody are in sync and supporting each other, it sounds strong, catchy, and intentional. Now we can borrow from this idea, memorize the lead line, and try to work it into another chord progression to sound more like Jimmy Page. And it might work some of the time, but to really steal the core of what makes this part great, we as instrumentalists and improvisers need to think about the chords that we're playing over and translate Jimmy's triad-based mindset to fit whatever it is we're playing over. Part 2 with a breakdown of how to do that incoming soon.